What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Danica Lowe, and recently, after 20 years of working in traditional media, I took a 5-month mid-career break. 3 years ago, I was invited to speak on a panel at the Milken Institute Global Conference about Generation X and the new midlife crisis. Now, it turns out that my generation's midlife crisis is sort of the same, but also sort of different than the generation that came before us. Those are the boomers. For example, one of the biggest issues facing women in Generation X is a waning sense of identity. But instead of the diluted sense of self that has been chronicled by women writers in the 1960s and 1970s, such as Betty Friedan and one of my favorite authors, Marilyn French, Generation X seemed to have it all. The career, the partner, the kids, and way more freedom than maybe their mothers had. I'll leave a link below to a story that my friend Ada Calhoun wrote for Oprah magazine that actually inspired this conference panel. The story really resonated with me when I read it way back in 2017. And if you are also in your 40s and vaguely feeling like something is kind of off, but you're not sure what, maybe you'll like it too. Anyway, it turns out that one of the biggest issues confronting people in Generation X at this time in our lives is career. Listen to this passage from Ada's story. Stress about money, of course, goes hand in hand with stress about work. A 2011 report by the Center for Work-Life Policy, which described Gen X as the wrong place, wrong time generation, noted that thwarted by boomers who can't afford to retire and threatened by the prospect of leapfrogging millennials, 49% of Gen Xers feel stalled in their careers. So if you're feeling stuck, you're not alone. I know that I was feeling stuck, so I had to take a few months off. Get off the hamster wheel, step out of the rat race. I think it's sometimes easy to forget that in the world we live in now, for better or for worse, what we do is inextricably linked to who we are. So a lot of the things that I did during my mid-career break will sound like sort of general self-care things, but if I really think about it, everything I freed myself up to do was really aimed at getting back to remembering who I am at my core. Without job titles, without a corporate hierarchy, without a team reporting to me, and without a paycheck. Taking this mid-career break was the only way I could see to get my entire life, career and all, back on track. So here's what I got up to in the past 5 months. 1, I took a lot of long walks. For me, the most important kind of freedom is ordinary, everyday freedom, and spending time in big, beautiful green spaces, walking endlessly without any Zoom meetings on the schedule, without anyone trying to reach me, feels like freedom. During this time, I even started doing something that I always considered the signifier of people who have a lot of leisure time, and that is bird watching. I'm still an amateur, I only have one book, but I really enjoyed bird watching. 2, I have reconnected with old friends. Right before I took my mid-career break, I spent 2 years living in Hong Kong, really far away from all of my closest friends and family. Now, moving to Hong Kong seemed fine and workable and doable when the world was 2019. But when travel became impossible, the resulting long-term isolation from friends and family, as well as the psychological impact of not knowing when I would be able to see my friends and family again, that is something that I had to work really hard to heal. Luckily, I was able to go to New York for 3 entire weeks and spend lots of quality time with so many friends and my whole family. Plus, living in the UK, I have tons of friends in London and some friends in Paris, and it just feels good to be within commuting distance of people once again. 3, I worked really hard to strengthen my mind-body connection. I grew up always feeling like a little bit of an outsider and always thinking I was an introvert. It was kind of easy in the 1990s, before the internet, before social media, to live a very internalized teenage life, and that is something I carried through until adulthood. It wasn't until 2016 when I went on my first Lululemon immersion yoga retreat up in Whistler that I even learned about mind-body connection. Before then, I think I really subscribed to some kind of narrative I'd picked up along the way about it's what's inside that matters, and I really divorced my internal self from my physical self. I think this is something that might happen to a lot of people who spend a lot of their childhood reading books by themselves rather than engaging in sports or doing other outdoorsy activities. All that said, when left to my own devices, like under lockdown, I can have a tendency to go into my head and neglect my physical health. So getting back into the gym on April 12th, as soon as gyms opened in England, signing up with a personal trainer to keep myself accountable and on schedule, plus seeing progress pretty quickly in terms of strength. All of this has been not only a huge boon to my sense of productivity and achievement, but also has really helped my mental and physical combined health. The fourth thing that I spent so much of my mid-career break doing is learning new skills in the easiest way I know how. One of the things I really want to work on in terms of self-improvement is learning how to take all the skills that I've learned through working in traditional corporate media jobs over the last 20 years and putting these skills in place to work for myself. Now, I think when I write it down on paper, I know how to do this, but to be completely honest, what I lack is confidence. By nature, I am not a huge risk taker. I generally like to make sure that I have a good fallback or that there's a soft landing. So during this mid-career break, and for a lot of it, we were in lockdown, I watched a lot of YouTube. Specifically, I watched creators such as Think Media, Ali Abdaal, and Catherine Manning. These are all people who are way younger than I am, but they are also far more self-possessed and confident. Watching these channels wasn't just educational. There are a bazillion channels on YouTube that teach the who's, the what's, the when's, the how's of how to do YouTube. But the reason that I like these particular creators is because they're all super positive. All of their videos have a go get 'em attitude that I really like. And they all offer really straightforward, practical advice. And sometimes when you're feeling just a little bit lost, like I was feeling a little bit lost, you might just need a pep talk, you know? So those are the 4 things that I have been doing to fill my time during my mid-career break. And even though they might just sound like very basic self-care things to do, these were all things that led to my sense of burnout before I took my sabbatical. I am currently on a path to plan and figure out the second half of my career. And I'm going to be documenting a lot of that journey of self-discovery and reinvention right here on my YouTube channel. So please like and subscribe if you would like to follow along, and I hope to see you next time.